Hello, my name is Jose Castillo, and today I will talk about the business case of Heinz. Well, the first question is, in what ways has Heinz changed since adopting the new innovative culture? Well, the first way in which Heinz has changed is that it is an organization open to new ideas. It is always looking for new ideas, and before it had a structure that wouldn't allow new ideas to be shared. Now that has changed, and they are constantly looking for new ideas. The second way in which Heinz has changed is the creativity type. This is something that the chefs at Heinz do on their working time, and it is in a specific time in which they are invited to innovate, to create new things, to create new recipes, flavors, and all kinds of foods during this creativity time. The third thing in which Heinz has changed is being not afraid of failure. Before, Heinz was afraid of failure, and that pushed them to not innovate as much as they're doing now. When they realized that failure can be a helpful tool in order to innovate or to create better products, they changed the way they saw failure and they stopped being afraid of it. The fourth way, in which Heinz has changed is listening to consumers. Before, they thought they had a perfect recipe and everything was perfect and consumers shouldn't be hurt because the product was good and they were eating it. So if they're eating it, it is a good thing, right? Well, that is not true entirely. That's why they have started to listen to consumers and started to adapt their products to what consumers might need. The fifth way in which Heinz has changed is now it balances between measure and madness. This allows the organization to have a better way to approach innovation by putting specific goals, but also inviting collaborators and people to innovate through madness. The second question is, list 6 barriers to innovation in an organization. How would you go about removing each of these barriers? Well, the first one, as I mentioned before, is fear of failure. I will remove this barrier by showing people that failure can be a valuable tool in order to become a better organization and in order to have better processes. There's a lot to learn about failure. The second barrier is resistance to change. I will remove this barrier by showing people how change can help them become better professionals and have a better working space, where things get easier and things become smoother every day. The third barrier that I will remove is non-versatile organization. What this means is that if an organization isn't able to adapt to changes or to adapt to new trends in the market, it will suffer a lot. And I will remove this by bringing a lot of young people to certain positions so they can remind people that have been working at the company for a long time, that innovation is good and being able to adapt is something good as well. The fourth barrier is short-term focus. I will change this by showing different people at the organization that only focusing on things that are happening right now works for a short period of time, or it might not give you the revenue that you will expect. Instead, if you change your short-term focus to a long-term focus, you will earn a lot of things, because focusing on the long time has actually proven to be better. It prepares the organization in a better way. The fifth barrier is a lack of an innovation process. I will change this by implementing an innovation process, a way for people to propose new ideas and to develop them. The sixth barrier is a lack of resources for research and development. This is something that happens in a lot of organizations and it's easy to solve. You just need to allocate some of the budget from other things to research and development, and it is proven that the return on investment of research and development is actually something very high and very good for a company. The next question is, what are the key differences between the approach of measure and madness? Is it possible for an organization to combine these two approaches effectively? Well, measure is kind of the old way of doing things, having a lot of goals, a lot of metrics, a lot of metrics, and always wanting to have specific results, always wanting to have something to measure, as to say. Instead, madness goes more into an innovative way of looking at things. It might not have everything, well, it actually doesn't have things planned out, it just goes along with it. So as organizations go with madness, they are actually creating new things, they're actually building the organization. So it is a way to build as you go. And yes, it is possible for an organization to combine these two approaches effectively. The business case proposes this through Heinz. Heinz knew how to measure and knew how to combine measure with madness and created a whole new innovation culture in the company. And I believe that as well, being able to combine these two is actually better, because only having one of them is not as good. Instead, if you have both of them, you're going to take the best of them. Why do you think Heinz has placed so much emphasis on creating time to develop big ideas? Well, I believe that the first thing is the return on investment. Developing big ideas is something that is costly and time consuming, but it has proven to have a lot of return on investment. It has proven to be very effective in order to create new markets or broaden the market share of the company, and it is something that companies should do all the time. Also, innovation is the future. Right now, a lot of companies are suffering and struggling because of this. They haven't paid much attention to innovation, and that has impacted them really, really strongly. And if you know that innovation is the future and you adapt to it, you will be able to take advantage of the innovation trend. Being the first is an advantage as well. I believe that is why Heinz has placed so much emphasis on creating time to develop big ideas, because being the first to have a big idea will give you the advantage of being the first to create a new market or the first to develop a new product and have a bigger revenue. List 3 examples of step change innovations with which you're familiar. Well, the first one is Rappi. It created a really strong innovation out of the blue, and it has now developed to become one of the biggest companies in Colombia, even to become a unicorn company, which means that it is a company valuated in more than $1 billion. The next is Nequi. It is also as well a Colombian company that has changed the way banking is done, and it has offered new ways to people to approach the banking world. It has allowed people to create different bank accounts through their phones, and that's something really, really new for Colombia. And the third one is Merck. Merck is actually one of the oldest, well, it is the oldest pharmaceutical company in the world, but recently they have changed a lot of what they are doing, and they have changed their image and also their core values and their strategy to approach things. Why? Because they notice that innovation is the way to do things and the way that they should be done. An organization with which you are familiar, does the organization have an innovative culture? Well, for this case, I want to talk about Amazon. It is one of the biggest e-commerce websites in the world, and I think everyone has heard of it. And they're constantly innovating. They're constantly looking for ways to offer their products and even for ways to ship their products. So, for example, right now they're starting using drones to get products to people in a faster way. But as well, they're starting to look into emerging markets like Colombia to offer their store in these new countries. Well, here it says that I should produce a short leaflet, but since it is a video, I will only explain the importance of being innovative in the modern business environment. Well, it It is very simple. If you're not innovative in the modern business environment, things won't be easy for you because companies are constantly innovating because the market is changing rapidly and consumers nowadays know that they have the power and they are what makes a company better or worse or what makes a company big. And if you're constantly innovating, you're constantly bringing new customers, but also keeping your consumers happy. And also you're shielding yourself from competitors by constantly innovating because they will copy you fast. But if you change the way you do things faster than they are copying you, you will have a continuous advantage. What can other business organizations learn from the recent process of innovation at Heinz? Well, the first thing is that innovation matters. With it, you will create a better company. The second thing is facilitate innovation. In order for innovation to happen, you have to nurture it and make it happen. As well, boost research and development. With this, innovation becomes an easy thing to do. But also to have open-minded policies. You cannot go just rejecting every single new idea that comes through the door because it is too crazy. Who knows, it might be the next $1 billion idea. And what do each of the following business terms mean in the context of the case study? Well, a dynamic environment is an environment that is constantly changing. Year-on-year profit growth, it means that every single year the profit is growing for the company. Capital equipment is how you use capital. Gap analysis is analyzing the gap between two things, reality and what you're thinking of. Benchmarking is a way to measure yourself and your company. Organizational culture is the culture that the organization has and the way it does things. Step change innovation is a really fast change. New product development is, well, developing new products to satisfy consumers' needs. A virtuous circle, it is a circle where innovation happens constantly and the organization is pushed towards something better. And a human resources department, it is an ally. It is an ally for things to become better at the company and to create better processes. That's my presentation. Thank you.